Hi, I do very much support the view that our moral values and standards do not come from religion as such, or only from religion, or just from religious scriptures. However, the alternative view that my good old friend Ricky Dawkins proposes appears to be more or less like a grab in the toilet bowl to me. I am not too sure that my view is correct, or that my objections will be valid until the very end of thinking them through, but at least I do have some serious doubts that Dawkins is on the right track here. First, because in a way, what he offers as an alternative, congressional votes, uh, newspaper editorials, dinner party conversations, and Supreme Court decisions as sources of our moral values, this is actually something like the same type of thing. What would differentiate scriptures or biblical or other recommendations as for behavior? What would differentiate them in principle or as a kind thing? What would differentiate them from recommendations found in newspapers, in the editorial, or in the recommendations of Supreme Courts or principal courts? It's the same type of thing. It is written recommendations, authority recommendations, and so on. And so, if we get them from the results of dinner party conversations or from important sentences in court or important decisions in parliament, then why cannot we get them from the scriptures? It's the same. It's in a way the same type of entity. Some recommendation or decision that is available to a plurality of people, to a multitude. So, after this first impression, I would like to discuss the issue in some more detail. My impression, to say that as a preliminary, as a general remark, is that Dawkins's theory about the generation of the shifts in the moral zeitgeist, or generally of our morals, our moral standards, our moral values, let me just use our morals for all this, that this is subject to the same kind of objection, that all this theory, that Dawkins's theory about the generation of shifts in our morals, that this is subject to the same objections that good old Davy Hume raised against a morality that is derived from reason or reason alone. It is rather difficult to respond to Dawkins's notion of where our moral standards come from, so my answer will be somewhat, my reply will be somewhat complex here. So let me clarify that at first I will talk about or criticize the validity of the claim that our morals come from dinner party conversations, from court decisions, from congressional votes, or from newspaper editorials, or of some, as Dawkins says, of some composite of these. But then I will also, and also somewhat along the way, I will also address the second question, or a second question, that is where the dinner party conversation people, where the dinner party talkers, or where the judges, where the Congress members, or where the newspaper editors get their shifting or new verdicts, or their new moral judgments from, or how that composite of these things, of these judgments, of these people or entities or institutions, how this composite of these is in itself justified or verified as an effective change in the moral zeitgeist. So where does this come from? Now I do know that these questions are, at least at the first sight, very much distinct. I am aware that in a way the question where the Supreme Court judges or the dinner party talkers get their views from, that this is this is almost entirely independent of the question whether or not we do get our moral values, whether in a way the people or the generality of people gets their morals from them or not. They may very well get them from them, even if the question where the judges get them from or where the dinner party talkers get them from is completely unclear or even unanswerable. So the questions are distinct. However, I still cannot help denying that the way in which the second question, that is, where do the judges get their new revolutionary views from, where do the reformers get their views from, that this question has something to do with the first question. The way in which the second question can be answered, that this influences the stance we take at the claim that our morals come from dinner party conversations or from Supreme Court decisions, from congressional votes, and the newspaper editorials. When we answer that, we cannot help saying that there may be some problem with how to answer the first question. But let us at first examine the first question in itself. Do our morals come from newspaper editorials and so on, from dinner party conversations? Now, at first, there is an argument that I believe, or this should be empirically tested, then people who don't care about dinner party conversations, newspaper editorials, Congress votes, and so on, still have morals. There might be some people around, and I believe there are some people around, who don't care a damn about these things, but they still have some morals, or sometimes even very rigid moral beliefs. One may object here that maybe they are not being honest, maybe they just deny that the source of their morality because they don't want to admit that they are so much dependent on authorities or on other people. They might be dishonest, or they might get their morals from some equivalent of these people. If not from dinner party conversations or congressional votes, they may get them indirectly from there or from some other equivalent of these institutions, of these people. Maybe their kindergarten teacher, their mafia boss, or their mother, or their football coach might have given them their morals. And also, if the moral zeitgeist shifts, it might have given them their new morals. Now, I'd like to reply to that objection. However, already here the second question in a way comes in. Because what if a person has no dinner party conversation results, or no Supreme Court judgment, etc. at hand, and is facing a question that is obviously morally relevant, but there is no previous verdict at hand, there is nothing around, the question is entirely new, then I believe even more often than not she does have some moral judgment. More often she has some moral judgment than not about the issue, even if it is completely new and there is no other judgment. Now, she has some moral sentiment ready at hand in order to deal with the moral dilemma. And an example, this is the interesting point where the second question comes in, an example of such a person or such a dilemma situation would be exactly the editor of a newspaper who is about to shift the moral zeitgeist in a certain direction. There is no previous result or of a dinner party conversation or something like that at hand, but still there is some judgment, some verdict. So I will continue in a second video.